Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Swimmers here. Swimmers here. Swimmers here. The Adult Swim Podcast.
Hey there, it's Swimmer's Ear time.
Swimmers ear.
It's an ear on a swimmer.
Yeah.
So this is where we talk about Adult Swim, the different shows, the different things they've done over the years. It is the 30th anniversary of Space Goes Coast to Coast.
Space Goes Coast to Coast.
Space Goes Coast to Coast is one of my all-time favorites, just simply because it was a take on like Letterman and things like that at the time, and I was completely entrenched in that.
It started on Cartoon Network, and actually, not only is it the 20th anniversary,
Is it 20th or 30th?
30th. Sorry.
30th, okay.
Oh, it makes me feel really old.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, well, I was 4 when the show started, so and I'm 34. This coming.
Jesus.
This coming August. But so the show actually did air April 15th, 1994 on Cartoon Network. So that's where the 30th anniversary, we're only 5 days off of that. That was the beginning of this week was the actual, actually when this show airs, we'll be a lot further behind. But as we're recording this on April the 20th, 5 days ago was April the 15th. So 5 days ago was the actual 30th anniversary of Space Goes Coast to Coast.
Man.
Which, for those of you that don't know anything about Space Goes Coast to Coast, it was created and executive produced by Mike Lazzo, as well as some other people, Keith Crawford, Matt Harrigan, Elliot Blake, Andy Merrill. But the cool thing about this show is it's inspired by the late night talk shows.
Mm-hmm.
And in that inspiration, there's some overlap that we had found when we did our David Letterman podcast.
Yeah,
there was some overlap with this show with some David Letterman universe people.
Yeah. Just the people in there,
and even his ex. I can't think of her name right now at the top of my head.
Meryl.
Meryl actually does an episode.
Meryl Marco. There you go.
She actually does an episode of this as well where she gets interviewed by
Yeah,
Space Ghost. So those of you that don't know, which I imagine everybody knows what Space Ghost is, it's an animated talk show where they use a lot of old animation from Hanna-Barbera superhero Space Ghost, which was a cartoon that was in the late 60s, early 70s, I believe.
Meryl Marco is extremely funny lady.
Yeah, so what do you
Great
got
writer.
for us, Mike? You got some pitch pilots, right?
So here's what I got. And we're going to play one of the pilots and just kind of watch it and tell you guys what we're seeing. But so Space Goes Coast to Coast, animated talk show. It had the 1960s Hanna-Barbera superhero Space Ghost. You've said a lot of this. I'm just reading this off the thing.
Yeah.
It premiered in 1994, and it basically created Adult Swim.
It was pretty much like the beginning of what Adult Swim would eventually become. This was like the first adult themed, I guess you could say, or targeted towards late teens, early.
Well, it's that
early
crossover,
20s.
right? It was old animation versus new humor kind of thing. Right?
Yeah, and if you go back and you watch some of those celebrity guest episodes where there's bigger name celebrities on the show and stuff like that, it really shows the cultural impact of what Space Goes Coast to Coast was, because a lot of the generation that it was targeted for, which would be Gen Xers, had grown up with their parents watching late night television, watching Steve Allen, and
also watching a lot of Hanna-Barbera,
and watching Hanna-Barbera. So it's really like an overlap for a lot of the Gen X guys. It's the late night TV. The you guys
I didn't
had
watch Steve Allen.
Well,
by the way,
you
that's
didn't watch
very
Steve
old.
Allen?
No,
I
mine's
thought that
like
was-
Johnny Carson. That'd be about right.
But I thought Steve Allen.
Steve Allen was before Johnny Carson. Yeah.
How long? But I guess
I didn't watch the Tonight Show in black and white.
You didn't watch it in black and white. I thought you watched the Tonight Show in black and white.
No,
Mike.
I did not.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
I'm
dating Mike a little further than he is.
I had to go out and feed the dinosaurs and stuff.
Yeah,
so
I'm dating Mike a little. Well, either way, it's like it was targeting that audience that had consumed late night TV with their parents as kids, and a lot of those people that watched it as kids. I was one of them, and I loved late night TV. And I found late night TV after Space Ghost Coast to Coast, though. So Space Ghost Coast to Coast was something I watched before I actually was watching David Letterman and all of those things.
I can see that. You know, talking about late night influences and stuff, and we'll get back to Space Ghost here in just a second. But there is a band out there. Let's see if I can find it real quick. It is called Ginger Root. Asian guy that runs the band, but his influences seem to all be like late night. You see that album cover there?
Yeah.
It's basically a late night set. And this is not the music you would think it would be, because like this is one of their songs. Starts in Japanese, number one.
Yeah.
Y'all have to be really confused. So that's their music, right?
Yeah. Cruising down the avenue.
It even sounds like a late night talk show theme.
Yeah, it does.
Or they've got some other songs that sound a lot like, and see, this is taking place all on a late night set.
Yeah.
It's super freaking crazy, honestly. But I love this stuff just simply because of the concept and everything. I will say this, like I told my wife this the other day. I really appreciate this generation that's starting to produce content and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're at a point where they take in everything that's been done, and then they basically like ironically make fun of it or something, you know. And it's and I can appreciate that, and it is kind of giving a nod to the things that's happened in the past, but doing it your own way, or showing how stupid it was, or whatever. And I really do appreciate that about this generation. So anyway, let's go back to Space Ghost and late night stuff. So there were a couple of pitch pilots for the show. Before the series premiered, 2 pilots were produced to pitch to the network. The first one featured Andy Merrill as the voice of Space Ghost and reused old footage of Denzel Washington to make it appear that he was being interviewed, which sounds like something that I would have made in my garage. The pilot was included as a bonus feature on the Volume 2 DVD under the title of Andy's Pilot. However, as the Denzel Washington footage would have cost $25,000 to license, again, this is 94, this release version is heavily edited to remove any trace or mention of him. Then they did a second pilot that featured Gary Owens, who did the original voice of Space Ghost, as the voice of Space Ghost, and Emma Thompson as the interviewee. Unlike the first one, this pilot has never officially been released in any form. Outside of the edited version of Andy's pilot, all that publicly exists of these pilots are a few sound clips and images, as well as transcripts from both of them.
Okay.
That's crazy how they just scrubbed it all.
Yeah, that
You
is
know?
crazy.
And you would think somebody like Denzel Washington would be like, yeah, I don't care, you know, but I guess he does. All right, so what we're about to play here is called Andy's Pilot. This is the lost one. It's only 3 minutes, so hang in there with us, and we'll just kind of talk you through it. It comes on the screen and says...
This interview was unauthorized by anyone. Guess what? It was just Cartoon Network Productions' idea, the format for the proposed show. BS.
Live from the Caesars Palace Resort Hotel on Ghost Planet, it's Space Ghost, Coast to Coast. Tonight, Space Ghost welcomes and
they
chats about
blurted
the
out.
Academy Awards.
Denzel Washington.
Now here's our host,
Blurted all
that
out.
master of mayhem,
Here comes
that
Space
wizard
Ghost.
wit, that ghost with the most, that super duper all my powers are in my wristbands from Radio Shack kind of a guy. Here's Space Ghost.
This is old footage they're showing from Hanna-Barbera.
Hello, everybody. I'm Space Ghost, and
That's Andy
welcome
Merrill.
to my show.
Well, and look,
Tonight,
the
my guest will
mouth
be
doesn't match up.
Yeah, it doesn't. But that's Andy
Star
Merrill's
of-
voice.
He says tonight's my guest is.
he's a star of
and then they
that
blurted
movie,
it out.
all right. And here he is, and pointing at people.
It's
Pointing
definitely
at
the guy who
people.
does
So,
Brack.
hello. Tell us about your first Oscar experience.
It says, I actually voted for Morgan Freeman for Street Smart. I thought he gave the best performance out of the 5 in the category that I was in. But Sean Connery had the sentiment going his way from something else. It came out, present the first award, and got 4 minutes standing ovation. And that's when I grabbed my coat and said, honey, I think we can go. So that was what Denzel Washington said.
Yeah,
And by the way, this pilot, it's just using old footage from Space Ghost cartoons. It's not the newly done stuff that they did on Ghost Planet, to come. So it's very quiet because you can't see the guy saying it, Denzel Washington, and you can't hear what he says because it would have cost a ton of money to try to get it in there into the show. But obviously he was at an award show and was going to vote for Morgan Freeman, but
Oh, that's funny. But what were you thinking? Tell me, when you won the Best Supporting Actor Oscar.
I was like, what happened? He said, what do you mean what happened? You won. You sure? I won, right? I just imagined that when I went up there, I just took the trophy anyway and did the speech. That's what...
I bet people out there want to see a clip of the movie. So here's a clip of the movie.
Denzel Washington says some stuff here, but we can't tell you what it is. That's what it says on the
That's
screen.
hilarious.
I love that.
Inspiring. I know a lot of people in town here that tell me that you're the hardest working man in show business. Is that
pretty
true?
rough.
Pretty rough. After all, it's called show business. It's not called show, It's called the show business, and no business, no show, They should call it business show, actually.
So, you got that big Oscar show coming up. Have you planned anything to say? Have you planned your speech for the big Oscar, Best Actor Oscar?
Hopefully, I'll say I'd like to thank the Academy.
Well, thank you for coming by.
I love how it
I'm
just
Space
bleeps
Ghost,
his
and
name
this
out
has
every
been
time.
my show.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Join us next time, and we'll have Don Knotts. I'm going to sit on the floor
Don
now.
Knotts.
I
love
don't
Don Knotts.
feel too good.
Then he just falls down on the floor.
Good night, kids.
That's nuts, man. That's a
that is
crazy
nuts.
thing,
Well, apparently there's a website dedicated to Lost Media.
Yeah.
It's called Lost Media Wiki.
Yeah,
You
there's
find
a
all
there's a
kinds of
couple
stuff
of
on
lost
there.
media things out there, and also, have you ever watched any of the lost media stuff on YouTube? Like, there's a ton of lost media.
I've watched. I mean, I found some of that stuff. Yeah, because while I've been watching all this stuff about this food companies and
Yeah.
stuff, one of them made the claim that they did the first jingle. So I had to look up what the first radio jingle was, and of course, it took me to a lost media page, and somebody had uncovered the very first radio jingle ever, and it wasn't whatever the documentary I was watching said. So I then had to Google everything they were saying as I was watching it, so I could verify what they were saying.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
So
Well, that is Space Ghost Coast to Coast. There are a ton of episodes from that show, and we'll come back to some of them because some of them are super impactful. And then it spawned the Brack Show, and wasn't there one more? What was other than the Brack Show?
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was just a Brack show.
Maybe it was just Brack Show. But there's 2 characters on that, right? Brack and what's the other guy's name? Zorak. I think Zorak had a show, right?
No,
Oh, okay.
he was on the Brack show.
Maybe it was just Brack Show.
He was on the Brack show.
I will tell you this, and this is
Martin Croker.
I'm not
is that his
super.
name?
I'm not super proud of this, but I like the Brack Show better. I thought it was better.
No, I like the Brack show more.
It's because they
too.
got into the humor and they really started doing
I like
it
the
and
Brack
stuff.
show a
Yeah.
lot too. They even had albums too. They did music and everything.
Yeah.
Andy Merrill. Shout out to Andy Merrill. He still
So,
does music. I'm gonna try to
Tell
get
me
him
the
on.
tell me the story
the
of
show.
Andy Merrill real quick. The one you told me earlier.
Oh, I'm not really sure
Okay.
what led to where he's at, but yeah.
This is just what we've heard.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure
This is what Denzel Washington told us.
I'm pretty sure any of his fan base or anybody that knows about him knows it. But yeah, he it just goes to show that just because you create things in this industry, a lot of the money doesn't go to the actual creators. A lot of it goes to executives. So. I'm not going to dive too far into his business, but he's not, doing financially well. And that's kind of one of the things that's eye-opening to me in doing these podcasts and stuff that I've done over the last few years is I've talked to a lot of people that have made a lot of great stuff, and a lot of them aren't in the best financial situations. Yeah. And it's kind of sad to see.
It is sad.
People that created all these amazing things that we all enjoy don't benefit financially from them any further than the creation of. They didn't get residual stuff. There's no residuals in voice acting and stuff like that.
That's the same kind of story that the guy who did Frylock.
Yeah, Frylock.
Told us about.
So they don't make the money that we think they make. So
no, they really
whenever
don't.
you see your favorite creator hustling their wares, buy an autograph.
Yeah.
Buy a print.
Yeah,
if it's something you can afford,
help them out,
and you appreciate their stuff, and especially if it's something that you comfort watch. If you got something on TV every day, you're watching it, and the creators of something that you enjoy so much aren't doing great, and you are, help them out. They helped you out. I know a lot of these shows. A lot of these shows have meant a lot to me throughout my childhood and even into adulthood. That it's immeasurable, the amount of. It's just like Johnny Hardwick and the character of Dale.
Yeah.
The impact that Dale had on my life as a kid. Being one of the funnier characters that I enjoyed. I don't know.
But
it's not just TV.
You start to separate and think that they're not real people. And then when it comes down to it, they're all just people.
They're all people.
Regular people.
Yeah, all of them are regular people. It's like that starstruck thing when you meet people and stuff like that. They're all just, every single one of them.
Never meet your heroes.
Has to put both their feet on the ground when they wake up in the morning.
I always tell people to imagine them sitting on the toilet taking a big stinky one.
Yeah, they all.
That kind of brings them right down to your level.
They all shit the same.
Yeah, I don't know about the Queen. I don't think she did, but other than that. All right. Well, thanks again
she don't anymore.
She doesn't now. Thanks again for joining us on Swimmer's Ear. Where can they find us, and how can they check us out?
You could find us at Funky Ear Podcast, and you could email us at funkyearpodcast@gmail.com.
There you go. All right, guys. Thanks again. We'll see you next time for Swimmer's Ear.
Swimmer's Ear.
Ooh, I got something in there. You can find Swimmer's Ear anywhere you get your podcasts or at roguemedianetwork.com.
Don't forget to take your Claradrill.
See our ad in Tables and Chairs magazine. This has been a Rogue Media Network production. Side knock, girl, and I didn't go.